Want to have your clients drooling to work with you? I'm talking about jumping in your messages saying, oh my gosh, I need you. Tell me how I can work with you. All without you creating an endless pile of content, doing more webinars or live launches, or spending hours on end in the DMs. It's absolutely possible. And I'm actually going to break it down for you today and show you how you can get clients excited to pay you because they can easily see the return on investment on working with you, all with what I call visual ROI statements. So if you're new into my world, hello and welcome. My name is Naza Taveri. I'm a business growth strategist and 18-year marketing expert. I help coaches, consultants, and healers convert cold leads and lurkers into premium paying clients in just 7 days using my easy yes method. So let's jump in by sharing a story. Honestly, there was a really long time where I felt really exhausted because I was spending all of this time trying to get people to say yes, or they were either spending weeks and weeks trying to get there, or they kept putting it off and saying, right now just isn't the right time. And I vividly remember being on a call with a client who shared with me that she would need to check with her husband whether or not this was the right fit for her. And I knew immediately that when it came to husbands, the most important thing for them was ROI, the return on investment. What would they get from what they put in? Which led me to understanding how people actually make decisions, but also how, when we create visual ROI statements, we not only speak to the logical part of our brain, or men and husbands, but also to the emotional side that allows us to make decisions quickly, almost nearly instantly. Because the truth of the matter is, when we can speak to what actually holds people back from making decisions and alleviate all the fears, concerns, thoughts that they have, we're able to get people to from their current state into actually being ready to purchase in less time. So I want to be able to share with you exactly how this works. ROI statements remove objections completely, and it shortcuts the time it takes for someone to actually be able to say yes, because you're literally helping them make a sound decision that they feel confident in, that makes them eager to start applying. Things that have happened as a result of simply just using visual ROI statements are having clients pay in full within just days of meeting you, having a client of mine who closed a $54,000 client on just one call. So let's get down to how it actually works, because in order to understand the power of ROI statements, you need to understand how people make buying decisions and why oftentimes what we're doing isn't supporting them in being able to do that. So, not to get nerdy on it, but the truth of the matter is there's three parts of your brain involved in decision making. Short way to understand this is, at any given point, what your audience is thinking when it comes to being able to make the next step of deciding whether or not that they want to work with you is that they're weighing the short term reward versus the long term gain. So at any given point, they're thinking to themselves, is it worth it for me to do this in the short term to create this long term effect? Now, when we understand this, we understand that people need to be satisfied both on a granular short term level, but also on a higher end long term level. When we can speak to both of these, we actually allow them to easily be able to see that it's worth the time and effort and money that they put into it, because it's going to create not only a long term gain, but also short-term reward. In speaking to both of those things through ROI statements, we're able to alleviate all the fears that they have of whether or not they should focus on something else right now, or if your solution is the right solution for them. The next thing that they look at is the cost versus value. At any given point, our brains literally want to decide whether or not it's worth the risk that they're putting into it. Cost is a risk for people. Knowing that they're going to be paying you and not knowing what it's actually going to get them as a result is a scary process. And I think a lot of times we don't recognize that. When we are doing an exchange of money, people are honestly thinking to themselves, what is the risk of me spending money if it doesn't work out? When we understand this, we can actually get in front of this by understanding how we ensure that it does get results. Because when we can show them the pathway that we use to actually ensure that they get those results, it alleviates this fear of this risk that it's not going to work. In doing so, we take away risk and really fulfill that with an actual pathway that allows them to, again, understand the return on investment and why it's no longer just something that they're spending money on, but rather something that they're going to invest in to make more money, time, effort, energy, whatever it is that they want. Now, again, I want to be clear on this. It doesn't matter if you help people make money or you help people find the love of their life or get their kids to listen. There is a return on investment. What most people don't understand is the return on investment doesn't have to be money related. It just has to be related to something that's so important to them that they are prioritizing it right now. In understanding that, we actually can connect the dots between the things that are super important to them right now to the things that they actually need to do to create that result. In doing so, we actually recreate this cost and value that allows them to see that exactly why the risk is worth the reward. Now, the last and final piece of understanding how people make decisions is understanding that they compare every decision that they're currently making to the past decisions they've made before, and making sure that they don't want to repeat the same situation they've created. So imagine that you are running on the playground and you fall down, right? Your next time when you're running on the playground, you're going to start thinking about whether or not you should run or walk or not do the thing altogether because you don't want to make the same mistake twice. Same thing goes for your audience. If they feel like they've made past decisions and they're worried that they're going to repeat that same decision in working with you, it'll hinder them from making decisions. Which means we actually can get in front of that by completely sharing with them how our return on investment is very unique to anything else out there. So, again, I want you to think for a second. Think about the last big purchase you made or a big purchase you're thinking to make. Maybe it's a car, maybe it's a coaching program, whatever it may be, it's a big purchase, right? When we're looking at how we make those decisions, oftentimes what we do is we start researching things. We start to weigh out what the alternatives are. We look for other ones. So maybe I'm looking for an SUV and I start researching SUVs and what I should be looking for in an SUV to begin with. Then I start to weigh out the alternatives between a Lexus SUV and a Toyota SUV and what's the difference and why should I choose one versus the other. Then what you start to do is visualize for yourself what it would look like for you in one of those SUVs. Your brain naturally wants to see if it's a good fit for you. And then lastly, we make the decision. So a short way of understanding this is their perceived benefit creates an impact of what that benefit is, which relates to a decision. Same thing in my SUV example. The perceived benefit is if I buy a Lexus, there's safety. So the perceived benefit is I'm doing that. The impact of the benefit is now I'm saving my children's lives because I'm driving a car that's absolutely safer, allows me to make a decision with ease without having to worry about it. And again, without really worrying about the price point as well. So let's talk about how we actually can, the three key things about ROI statements that make it so good that people can't help but want to say yes and they actively make decisions. Number one, is it specific? Truth of the matter is, no matter what kind of marketing we're doing, specificity always sells because specificity creates authority, trust, and it simplifies how people make decisions. Because telling someone that you help them in marketing sounds great, but it doesn't actually inspire them to want to take action. It feels too boring and like they can't visualize for themselves how they could learn marketing. But if I instead show you how you can use Reels to market to 100K people a month, all of a sudden your brain is starting to think of how that would work specifically for you. And you're starting to visualize all the possibilities. And you can see a direct correlation between the cost and the reward, therefore creating a return on investment. Number two is looking at whether or not it's visual. One of the biggest problems I see in the marketing world is that people don't make what it looks like working with them and the return on investment visual enough. Let me give you an example. If you're telling someone that working with you is going to lead to them making $10,000 a month, that's great, but it doesn't feel visual enough to them. They don't actually feel it in their bones that that could work for them. So when we actually create a visual statement, what we do is allow them to be able to understand how 10K looks for them in their lives. Let me give you an example. Instead of saying, I help you make 10K, we say, I help you make or create the financial freedom to pack your bags and fly to Rome for an entire month without ever having to look at your phone. Now, here's the thing, whether or not that person has ever thought about going to Rome, flying there and spending a month off doesn't actually matter. You can create a visual ROI statement that isn't directly correlated to exactly what your audience might need. Again, understanding the fact that your audience has a whole bunch of different needs of why they want to reach those goals, but it allows them to start thinking and optimizing for what they would want to do if they reach the same type of goal. So whether or not they wanted to fly to Rome in the first place, they're going to start naturally looking at what it would look like for them and therefore visualizing that process and seeing your option as the solution that's going to get them there. This allows them to tangibly create results for themselves and feel eager in that movement towards reaching that goal as well. Lastly, is it reliable? I see a lot of people making really big statements of what they're allowing people or what they're going to help people make a return on investment. Maybe you're talking to people who are making $1,000 a month and you're telling them how they're going to make $100,000 a month. Truth of the matter is, if it feels like it's too far-fetched or it lacks that reliability of what they feel like is actually capable for them, then they're not going to feel safe and therefore they're not going to be confident in making a decision. When it feels too far out of reach, they can't do that. A great way to be able to do this is help them visualize it for themselves so that they can make those big shifts, but understand the steps that get them there. Not only does this help them actually make decisions and feel like it's a tangible solution for them, it allows them to see the return on investment for not only the future of the long term goal, but allows them to see what they're able to do right now. Being able to speak to both of those parts allows people to make faster and better decisions because they feel like they're not only solving a problem that's bugging them right now, but they're also creating a solution for the long run, which means it's a better return on investment for them. And therefore, they're willing to put the money in to invest to do that. Now, what I want you to understand is one of the biggest things I've shifted in my business to satisfy that immediate need is to speak to both the current problem and how we solve for that problem that they have right now and give them a quick win, while also discussing how we build that into the longer term result. Again, understanding that the way people think is, I have a problem right now and I need to solve it. And that's all well and good. And we want to solve that problem. And oftentimes, what happens in marketing is we spend too much time talking about the problem we want them to solve when people can't really wrap their heads around it. So, a great way to do this is speak to how you solve for the quick problem, creating a quick win in their problem right now, while also discussing how that relates back to the bigger problem and how you're actually going to solve that as well. In doing so, people feel confident and again can see a return on investment because they can see how you can solve their problem now as well as in the future. Now, the last thing I want to share with you guys is I need you guys to understand that you have to be able to help people see. It's a really simple thing to understand that people make decisions based on what they can visualize for themselves. Having ROI statements are great, but being able to make them visual is what really, really takes it to the next level. Because when people can feel and see what it would look like for themselves, all of a sudden you've removed a lot of barriers of them wondering whether or not you can help them. Most people who are struggling to be able to convert people into the next step do so because those people can't actually visualize for themselves how your offer can support them in making that result that they want, because it's not visual enough. So take away the fears around whether or not you're going to create the perfect visual statement. Create multiple visual statements that allow people to really be able to see and create their own opportunity of what it would look like for them and allow them to get to the next side. This is why it's so powerful and why my Easy Yes method focuses on really incredible messaging that speaks to ready to invest clients so that we can understand not only the problem that they have right now, but the problems they don't even see yet. In doing so, again, we're able to solve not only the right now problem, but the future problem, making the return on investment even more incredible. This is why we start with building proprietary methodology. In doing so, we literally eliminate all of their fears and all the thoughts that they have about comparing you to other solutions and make it where you become the only solution to their problems. We create a market of one. This easily creates a return on investment for them because they understand that you have a solution that nobody else provides out there, and therefore they're lucky to have you. This allows my clients to 5 to 10x their prices, and clients happily line up to pay them. Number two, we create a sales system that literally speaks to the return on investment. Again, when you can say to people, hey, here's a typical return on investment, or here's the possibilities of what's possible for you, all of a sudden they're able to see for themselves what it would look like. We use a Netflix inspired mini series that allows people to go from where they currently are to seeing what the real problem is and how we solve for both of those problems using both quick and immediate gratification, but also in long term gratification needs. This allows, again, people to make quick decisions because they can see how it satisfies both part of those and creates the logic and emotion that allows people to confidently make decisions. Lastly, we use what's called a results and retention mechanism. This allows you to show exactly how you create the results that you're promising. Because again, you can talk all day and night about creating return on investment and results and all those great things, but if people can't understand how you get them there and why it's a foolproof way to get them there, then they're always going to wonder what the risk is for them. Creating a results mechanism builds not only the confidence, but the simplicity of being able to see how you deliver a result for your audience. So this allows you to get your clients better results and more consistent results, meaning that at any given point, your audience is no longer feeling that risk adversity that they have right now. This is exactly why my Easy Yes method works so well and why I've been able to help over 400 coaches, consultants, and healers be able to 2 to 5x their revenue and convert lurkers and strangers into premium paying clients in just 7 days. Because it's all built around understanding how people make decisions and why you can use things like visual ROI statements to support them getting there. So if you want to learn more about what this looks like, go ahead and click the link around this video or drop Easy Yes in the comments below, and I'll share with you how we can chat about using the Easy Yes method to get clients eagerly paying you, saying yes, and paying in full.